Are we live?
Welcome, 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 everybody. We're back one more time every week, Wednesday this time. Thanks for tuning in to Vintage House. We are definitely live.
Welcome, everybody.
And if somebody can mute, that would be super awesome. Lauren, take it away. Why don't you tell people, just remind folks why we're here and what we're doing.
So I hope that I am the cause of the echo, number one. So I did just mute myself. So guys, thank you so much, Lori, and thank you so much, Kevin, Abdullah, and Hans Chery for being on Vintage House. Vintage House Show really is a collaborative effort to preserve dance music. We're all about preserving the history of dance music, the history of the DJs, the other contributors to this phenomenal music genre. And one of the ways we do that is this show, bringing on major pioneers like Lori Branch, like Kevin McFall, to speak to other fantastic pioneers like Kevin Abdullah and Hans Chery. So we cannot wait to learn more about their lives and their stories. I also want to do a quick reminder that we do have a physical archive. Our physical archive is in Evanston, Illinois at Shorefront Legacy Center, which is an award-winning Black archive. And so we want people to realize that hopefully we're going to get people to our archives. They can see physical collections from Robert Williams, from Byron Stingley, and from Lori Branch. So please, at some point after COVID, we're going to have everyone up to Evanston. You can kick it at the show, and then we can kick it at our archive repository at Shorefront Legacy Center. Take it away, Lori.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that. Sometimes we just got to remind folks why we're here, why we're doing this, and we're really the one source. And we're typically in WNUR studio in Evanston, Chicago, but we are here during the pandemic. We might stay here after the pandemic because we like this virtual space a lot. So I don't know, Lauren, I'm thinking we might do a combo, maybe sometimes in the studio, sometimes not in the studio, because we do want to satisfy a radio audience who were our faithful listeners. Hopefully they've joined us here. But without further ado, let's get to the meat of the show. Hans Chery, Kevin Abdullah, thank you for joining us tonight. So these two gentlemen have a long history in what we know as dance music culture and canon. You were there at the beginning. We see lots of stories. I mean, Kevin's been on the show a couple times. So we heard about your antics at the power plant. We're going to remind folks about that tonight. It's a really important moment in history. Hans Chery, part of the Rude Boys. We're going to talk a lot about that. And so some of the early boy groups, young male groups. I don't know what we called them back then. And you know what I want to do tonight? I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, you weren't ready for that, talking about the South Side. You know, there's an area, Burnside, Avalon Park, Pill Hill. It just kind of generated a lot of what we think of as like the house music culture and canon. So many people either were from that area or used to hang out in that area like me at the 87th Street McDonald's and just, you know, listen, we know that there was a birthplace of something. So I want to explore what was happening in those communities at the time. But without
the Wendy's was serious business.
Wendy's. I don't remember Wendy's.
What Wendy's? That was later.
That was later.
That was way later.
I'm only 20 generation. All right, so shout outs. Hey, Linda Red, thanks for watching. Davi, you rock too. Davi Davenport has a great show. Tune in on Sunday nights to her show. Reggie, DJ Lady D, love you all. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so you know, Hans, we've been talking to Kevin a lot, so I would love to just start with you and ask you a question about, I like to ask people where and when they entered, and you can talk about, you know, what that means for you, but when we think about house music, the culture, the canon, pre-house, what have you, the thing that led to what we know as house, just tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and what happened to get you into this movement.
Well, originally, my brother and my sister used to sneak me out the house because I could dance. So they would take me to parties to show me off, you know, and it started off at low house parties. Then I don't know if you remember a group called the FBI. They used to be at Mendel parties. It was the FBI. What was the other name? The doctors and things like that. And I was an honorary member of the FBI group. It was a guy named Glenn Doherty that lived on my block, and he pulled me in as a youngster, and that's how I got into going out partying. And it was Mendel. I might have been like a sophomore in high school, going to Mendel with the older people, going to those type of parties. And from there, it went to the Mansion and the Loft, Impression, Sawyer's. It just went on, and from that point, I always knew Kevin from high school. So Kevin and I, we always gel. We played football. We was on the football team. So we would go to the parties also. Or if we didn't go together, we would bump heads at the parties. And we always set the crowd. We could dance. That's what we went out for. And from there, it just started building and building, like popularity. Then we met Eric Franklin.
Oh, boy.
and to start called the Rude Boys, and he just recruited a whole bunch of us to become Rude Boys, like Al Harris, Jimmy Johnson, Maurice Gilliam, Kevin Abdullah, Craig Abdullah,
Andre Hatchett, Everett Hanley,
yeah, and even Ben Wilson before he passed, he had became a Rude Boy. We actually played the Chosen Few in basketball and kicked their butt at the Y.
We got to get the collab. We got to make sure we got to get some backup on that. Some Chosen Few people got to let us know if that's
I told you Hans he's got a ton of information in there, and you're gonna get it all tonight. So give it to him.
I want to see the receipts.
We don't have video, but we got a photo. We got photos.
As a matter of fact, I remember the night so clearly. I dove in the pool and it was the shallow and hit my head at the bottom of the pool.
Oh my God, that's painful. So Linda Red said, "Where is Eric Franklin?"
In Vegas.
Eric Franklin's in Las Vegas with his. He lives with his father. He had he's paralyzed on his right side. He had a major stroke, so he's in Las Vegas with his father.
Got it. Trenton wants to know, was Rick Howard a rude boy?
Rick hung out with the rude boys. He was not a rude boy.
Oh boy. Right. So what did it take to be a rude boy? I want to dive a little bit in. There were a lot of clubs back then, and what I mean are like social clubs. It was a really important part of the scene, and these weren't necessarily all people who went to the same high school or college. They were from all over the city. So talk a little bit about why Rude Boys, and why did you form? What was the purpose, and what did you guys do?
Well, we had a swag about ourselves. It was about trend setting, like fashion. Like we came out with the little beanie caps, and everybody and their mother started wearing the beanie caps. We danced. It was just, we had the swag. Everybody in the Rude Boy had a certain swag about them, and we all kind of got along, except I was the peacemaker because a lot of people didn't care for Eric Franklin. So I basically was the peacemaker there. As far as Eric and the rest of the people go, which he was the one that started the group. So, but a lot of people don't give Eric Franklin credit. Eric Franklin did a lot. He did a lot back then. His father funded a lot of those parties.
He did. I hear that story a lot, that these parties were often funded by parents. We don't really talk about that too much. I know that my own mother, she laughed at me once, but I was like, "Can you give me like $300 so I can invest in a party?" She's like, "What?" And when I told her what we made off the last one, she was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
You would make a little bit. You would make a little bit of money. East Moves chimed in. So much culture. We definitely got a lot of culture.
Yeah.
So one more question from our friends, Dwayne and Lowell Lewis. Do those names ring a bell? Lady D's asking.
Not offhand.
No.
All right, Lady D, you got to give us more of a hint. So
Let me say this real quick. I think in addition to what Hans said about having that little something that we had, we were just friends. We were just good friends hanging out, and he came up with a good idea, and we followed suit, and that's how the Rude Boys came about. So really, that's kind of in addition to what Hans said.
One of the things that Craig told me, I said, I was talking to him earlier today, and I said, Hans and Kevin are going to be on the show. I said, what's the one thing that you would remember that sort of epitomized like their time in the early house music? And he said, you knew if Hans and Kevin were going to be there, everyone knew that it was going to be a good party. Like they kind of, people followed them, sort of like where they were going. If you saw them when you came in, you're like, okay, it's going to be good. What did you guys do that gave you the reputation of that? And if other people are watching, chime in. What made it special when Hans and Kevin were in the room?
Go ahead, Hans.
Well, the thing is that we didn't have attitude. We got along with everybody. We were people person. We were friendly. We spoke to people. Although we were popular and never went to our heads, had no problem with meeting new people or bringing people in. Not only that, we knew how to have a good time. People followed us because I don't know if you remember, Laura, they had actually barred me out of McDonald's on 87th Street because they said that I was the reason why everybody was coming up there, and I had to go talk to the owner for him to allow me to come back up there because I told him we were bringing them business. And that was only because the manager got mad because a young lady, Teresa, had given me some free food. And another manager called her and got mad.
I kind of remember people being put out of that McDonald's because we did pack the place out, but we also spent a lot of money there. So I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. So once I actually went on 103rd because he had another McDonald's over there by Corliss High School and met with him. And once I talked to him, I don't know, were you with me then, Kevin? I think it was me, Linnell Willis. It was a few of us who went up there.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, because, Linnell Willis was also a rude boy. But we went up there and talked to him and talked him into allowing us to keep coming up there because we told him we was bringing them business. And he didn't have a problem with that. And he realized that we were nice young men trying to have fun.
Right. And not being a disturbance within the establishment. We were just there. We would order food, but we would sit there and we would conversate and laugh and joke. It was just a hub.
Remember, we named it McArnold's, like Happy Days.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
McArnold.
Right.
We also, I don't know if you guys hung out the one, maybe some folks who are watching, but we also hung out the one at Hyde Park on 53rd Street.
Hyde Park was just
it wasn't magnitude.
Well, what was the difference between that McDonald's? This is like, Lauren, I know this is all like foreign to you because I think this was a few years before your time. But we hung out at that McDonald's. That was a Hyde Park crowd.
Well, the difference between Hyde Park and that McDonald's, 87th Street, you had people coming from the south suburbs, from Oak Park. They came from all over the city just to hang out up at that McDonald's. Because they knew everybody was going to be there, like the James Winstead, Farley, Wayne. Everybody came to that McDonald's. Everybody all over the city, that was the place to be. And then it also ended up at Stony Island Park also, which is called Jesse Owens Park now. So it was like 87th Street was the house where everybody in the early house days hung out was 87th Street, and it was safe. It was, it was no garbage. I see Laura mentioned Wendy's, but Wendy's had some cutthroats up there. As a matter of fact, Common made a record about the guy Ace got shot, and I knew Ace, and I know the guy who killed him. So Wendy's was a little rough. McDonald's was more peaceful. We were younger. we were more about hanging out and having fun, having a good time. And afterwards, we would go to the parties.
I remember it very well, and it did not feel. It felt very peaceful. It was like, and everyone was cool.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it was a nice time. We don't think about that when we think of 87th Street now, but it was a safe place.
Yeah, it was.
Kevin.
You know, Hyde Park, the whole Hyde Park area, 53rd, was a very safe place back then. And you know, we hung out at the Point and up and down 53rd Street. So it was not more or less a venue in Hyde Park. It was Hyde Park within itself.
And to chime in on that, even like the so-called thugs that hung out at Hyde Park, they became house heads. Like thugs, brands, you know, they are. I'm not saying house head, but you know, I'm just saying because I don't call myself a house head, but they came on the house scene and they partied. And these guys started off trying to rob people.
Wow. So why don't you call yourself a househead, Hans? Why don't you call yourself a househead?
I knew that was.
Don't call myself a househead.
I said, what do you not tell me if you don't? Why you don't like that title?
Because one, I'm original. I'm from the beginning. That term househead, rock is the one that started it in early 2000s. As far as those T-shirts and things like that. Yeah. So I mean, may he rest his soul, but that's who started that househead term. And so I'm original. I don't consider myself a househead. I consider myself a partier, a original, love to dance, love disco, because house music to me, a lot of people have it wrong. It's called house in memory of the warehouse. And so a lot of people call themselves househead. What am I trying to say? They have totally changed it.
Yeah, you know, it's more into something different. Correct.
Right. Mm-hmm. Just like they trying to change the music. You know, I rarely go to parties now. I don't mind some new music at all because Wayne and I had a discussion years ago. Good music is good music no matter when it comes out. Mm-hmm. So there is some great new music, but I just can't get into all those tracks. Everything sound the same. It doesn't put you in a zone like back in the day. It just doesn't. Like I can listen to the old disco music and I can actually dance with someone mm-hmm. where I'm not even paying attention to them. I'm in the zone.
Right. You know. What do you think of that term, Kevin? What are your thoughts about the term househead?
I agree 100% with Hans. And there's no disrespect to the term or the people that consider themselves househeads. I think that morphed. That was after us. Mm-hmm. So I don't think I just choose not to get form under that umbrella. But I mean, we come in at it in the inception of this, and it's different now. So it's nothing wrong with that, with mm-hmm. them calling house heads, because that is when they came about, and that is the title that they're taking, and that's fine. So
well, what's interesting is you give credit to the term to Lemuel Ivester, also known as Rock, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Rock was there from the beginning too. But
but what Rock did, he capitalized off of it.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? He capitalized off of it. And he came out with that term, which mm-hmm. that was brilliant. That was brilliant. You see what I'm saying? Because people grasped to it. But although he's from that era, that doesn't mean that I'm going to run because he said he started calling people househead. You know, that's fine from a business standpoint, but from an aspect of me coming from back in the day, I'm not going to call myself a househead.
All right. Trenton agrees with you. He's not a fan of the term because he was there at the beginning. So this is an interesting debate. I think that I don't think that I dislike the term.
I
don't.
don't.
Again,
I didn't.
yeah, that's right.
I don't hate it. I
We're
don't.
not
Have,
saying that we dislike it. We're
Right.
just stating that because of the. I'm sorry, Lori, but I'm saying
no,
that
go ahead.
yeah, because of the time in which we came into it, that term came later, which umbrellaed all the people that came after. So
Right.
we're not saying that we dislike it. It's just that we just don't
You know, doesn't
feel.
apply to you.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, yeah.
What do you think, Lauren?
Well, you know, that's interesting. I mean, if you're there from the beginning, you're there from the beginning. You want to call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. I love the term househead. Clearly, since I'm only 21, you know, I
Anyway.
think what happens is, you know, I consider myself a househead as much as I want to learn, and I am this program and the work that we're doing teaches me every day. I like the term househead. It just says I respect the music. I love the music. I love the culture and the environment. So, you know, in some ways, I consider myself kind of an original. I'm a little bit behind you guys, but I was trying to throw on new music and trying to interview Frankie and everyone at NUR when I was in 1985 and 1986. So not too far off the beaten path, but, you know, as a non-original but close, I feel like I like househead. I love being a househead. I'm proud of it.
Okay.
Well, she's a proud househead. We're gonna
Yes, she is.
we'll move on from that. So I want to Hans, you've been Kevin has some things to say about you. All good, of course. But he said, you know, you got a lot of opinions and ideas, and one of the things that we like to talk about is there are folks who, and we talk about this a lot. There are people who want to understand the roots of house music. That's the whole purpose of the show, and that's why we try to unpack that a little bit. Where do you think people get it wrong?
I think a lot of people, they always say they were there, and a lot of people have the misunderstanding of when. What word am I trying to say? When this movement started, and like I get a lot of flashbacks. I mean, not flashback, but lip service when I make a comment on Facebook about people lying as far as when they were out partying and things like that. And then you look at their age and you know they weren't there because back then, you know, like the warehouse, like I tell Kevin, I only went to the warehouse one time in life, you know, and when I went there, I wasn't comfortable, so I never went back. Although I was around, that wasn't the place that I hung out. Power plant, music box, underground, yeah, I went to those. So a lot of people, they lie about the things that they did and things like that, and it just bothers me because I know. You know, although I didn't hang out at the warehouse, I know who went to the warehouse because they were my friends. You know, I chose not to go with them.
Yeah. We hold that time very dear.
Right.
That time and that time is very dear to us, and we galvanized and made a lot of good friends that are still our friends today. So, and I actually see why people would want to be associated with that time and that era. But you know, the people tend to embellish and things, and everybody knew each other back then. Everybody knew from Aisha Mays to Haas is better than throwing out the names, but everybody, because we were at the parties, all the same people were there all the time.
So let me make a point here, Kevin. One of the things that Wayne Williams talked about last week, we talked after the show. I made a comment on, I think I was on when I was on Vince's show. he asked, where did you learn about house music? And I said the warehouse. I mean, that was the house music culture before the canon, and I like to talk about that. And he took exception to that. And he was saying, you were exposed to that before the warehouse. And we went back and forth, but there was a distinct difference. He pointed out the warehouse had at capacity a few hundred people at maximum capacity.
Yeah.
When you're at Sours and Rude Boy parties and Vertical parties and Chosen Few parties, you're talking a few thousand people. So is it possible? Yeah. Is it possible that everybody was there and we just didn't know?
Well, I'm talking about people that are being at places in a consistent basis, not people that came one week and then didn't show up and then periodically came. I'm talking about the individuals that were there consistently every week.
Right.
Obviously, if you're going to be in a place and these individuals are there, you're going to become friends with these individuals. Just like Han said in the beginning, we were very approachable and friendly and stuff like that. So we tended to have this energy like the sun, and people just gathered around us and we really had a good time. We brought a good energy to the room.
And let me say this also. Even if you wasn't a regular, it's certain people, if you came out to those parties more than one occasion, it's certain names you would know. Because those were the people that were involved with those parties. You see what I'm saying? Like, say for instance, like Andre Hatchett, Wayne Williams, names like that, myself, Kevin Abdullah. It was certain people at those parties. If you were there, you would know these people. Or you would even know the name. You don't even have to know them personally. You would know those names, to me.
So what bothers you about that? I mean, I know, Kevin, we've talked about this, but Hans, tell me what grates your nerves about folks saying they were someplace when you think that, is it about taking credit for it? Like, I'm still trying to get underneath.
Well, can I say, Hans, give me one bit of that. Giving bad information.
Okay.
That's what bothers me. If you weren't there, then you are, I hate to say it, but you're lying. So, how could someone give you information for a small segment or of a time that you've never been? Mm-hmm. So, and I've said this on your show before, everybody has their time. Just stick to your timeline and give people what you experience. But go ahead, Hans. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's what I was going to say also, the bad information and, just, I've had people, as a matter of fact, I had a guy lose some money to me because he told me the music box was on 22nd in Michigan and we bet it $100 and he lost. He swore up and down that was on 22nd in Michigan. You have people, I remember I was at the Wild Hell one night and the guy was telling his girlfriend how he used to party at the warehouse and this and that. And I was just sitting there listening. I saw he was only like in his probably late 30s, early 40s. And I told him, I said, I don't think you really partied at the warehouse. He was like, yes, I did. I said,
well, you have to be careful with that too, Hans, because you have to have them identify which one.
Yeah, a lot of people think warehouse on Randolph.
Yeah, I said, I think you partied at the warehouse on Randolph and Halsted. Mm-hmm. He said, well, that's the only warehouse that ever. I said, no. I said, not.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Randy Roberts, it said something, and Hans is saying something that I'm really interested in learning more about. So Randy Roberts suggested that most people didn't let people know they went to the warehouse. So it's kind of interesting. And Hans, you suggest you went to the warehouse and decided not to go back. Help me understand both of those comments a little bit.
Well, I went to the warehouse. I was young, very young. And it was like, as far as being around that many gay people, it wasn't for me. You see what I'm saying? I had to grow into it. It was something totally like mind blowing and new to me, because the warehouse, like the power plant had a mixture. You see what I'm saying? They had women, you know, the music box had a mixture. The warehouse, it was more like 80 to 20.
It was more like what?
Or tell 90 to 10.
Right. Right.
Really?
It was a gay club. That's what it was.
There were that you said 90% men and 10% women, or 90% gay and 10% straight.
Yeah, it was around, the numbers were around there.
What's the 90-10? I'm trying to understand.
Straight kids, 15% straight kids. It was a gay club. It was for them.
Right.
So I get it. Hans, I get it.
Yeah. So that's why Randy
because when you walked in there, you were the new guy. Who was that? Who's the new guy walking in the club?
And said you went to the warehouse in packs.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me, you know. It wasn't my time.
Right. He said Craig said it was a meat market. Craig, that's not true. That's not true.
Hey,
yeah, it was. Yes, it was.
A little bit on Hans. Where you went to grammar school and high school and when you came out?
I went to Horace Mann, and I went to Chicago Vocational.
CVS.
What year did you come out?
81.
We got some dissertations on Facebook.
I know. I see. I'll go back to Charles. Party people weren't popular back then either. It's powerful to be part of a small movement that becomes big. So that to me is a mouthful. I think you are saying something that is really important to this. Is that this was a small movement that became big, and people want to take credit for that, or they want to be part of that.
Yes, I mean, if you really think about it,
right, Carl.
Everybody wants to be part of something that was eloquent and wonderful, and I treasure them times. And when you start to hear about it, of course, you probably wish that you were born earlier, or you wish you could have introduced yourself at an earlier time if you were old enough. But because of circumstances like your mother, your father wouldn't let you out or what have you. But it was a great time in my life, in our lives. I'll include Hans in that. It was truly wonderful. And I don't see. I can see why people would want to move towards saying that they were part of it.
So let me ask you this. Go ahead, Hans.
And you know what else? It also bothers me that a lot of people don't know that the torch was kept burning from some people that never get credit for it, because you have to realize back then, a lot of people were older, they left. And so it was a few people that kept the torch burning, still throwing parties and things like that, keeping this thing alive, and they don't get credit for it, like Eric and Paul Wilkerson. They had that place called The Spot. It's so many things, Reggie and that, Reginald Corder and that, we were throwing parties, we were still throwing parties, keeping the torch lit. And, and even with the picnic, a lot of people had a hand on building that Chosen Few picnic, because it became a movement just like the music. In the city. People start gravitating because certain people were at those picnics. And that's how it became big, but people don't get credit for it. And it bothers me because, it's some people in Chicago, to me, that should have that, what kind of card am I looking for? That card that they shouldn't pay to get in nothing.
Carte blanche.
Yeah, because they kept the torch and kept things going, and they get zero credit for it,
Right.
Like Butch and Craig with the playground, like we used to run out and pass out flyers. We would go all the way out to Indiana to get the flyers and posters and
posters with the wires on the poles.
hanging flies on the pole with Daryl Kimbrough, Kenny Hunt. It's so many people that was involved. Getting on the bus, this is what really gets me. We would get on the bus and travel all over the city on the bus, passing out flyers to all these high schools and all these schools to keep this thing and make this thing grow to where it is. And folks never give credit for it. It's always about, well, the DJ did this, the DJ did that. If it wasn't nobody there, and if it wasn't people passing out flyers, if it wasn't certain people there, if it wasn't people dancing, what's a DJ without the dancers and the people dancing to their music?
Yeah, Kevin and I were talking about this earlier. And Hans, your thought is that the DJ didn't matter as much back then. Talk more about that.
Well, my thing is that, you have to realize it was more about the people that were coming to the parties and the people that was going to be at the party. The DJs, that was a token because because if certain people at those parties, they know good music was going to be played anyway. You see what I'm saying? So it was about, the DJs mattered, but so did the crowd, the people, and the people that was doing the party. Because you could throw a party, and if the right people threw the party, you could have a no-name DJ, and that place still be packed. But they knew that DJ was going to bring it. Just like, for instance, when Reggie and I were doing the Concrete Jungle on 76 and Stony Island, we had Emmanuel, Jamie 326, Reggie McLean. Those are people we had DJing, and we packed that place every time we threw a party.
I like what you're saying because we actually had a good conversation with Reggie Corner about this, and his philosophy was a little bit different, which was that DJs needed to have a following before he's comfortable promoting them. And I think that there's a little bit different philosophy because some people say it's very different. If I have a club, so I look at a place like Smart Bar Metro. Metro has built a reputation for having like the party queen that is hosted by our friend who's I'm blanking, from Gramophone. Yeah, Mike, exactly. And in that place, they're going to put you on whether it's going to be packed because they have created such a beautiful situation that people just expect that whoever's playing is going to be the bomb. So what are your thoughts about that? Is it the promoter's job? Is it the DJ job?
It's the promoter's job. And my thing is, if I'm having a party and I'm the promoter and I'm paying the DJ to play, and I know what kind of crowd I'm bringing in, I expect that DJ to play the music for my crowd, not for what they want to play. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So to me, people still ask me, why did I stop throwing parties? Mm-hmm. I think I lost the love for it because, it was a lot of, I'm the type of person, I don't count the doors and I don't count money and this and that. But, a lot of times I used to cook for my parties and this and that also. But it was, to me, like sometimes I would think that we should have bought in more than what we did, and we didn't. I don't trip on that. I just step back. Okay. You see what I'm saying? So, and then like, not only that, I've been out the game so long is that, Kevin and I, we've thrown a few parties, but now the type of crowd if I was trying to attract, would be a different crowd, to be honest with you. Yeah. It would be the people that like the old music, the classics and things like that. I'm not trying to target that other crowd.
That's a really good point because this is something we also go back and forth on, which is, we talk about vintage house, we understand the importance of the history of it. We understand what these small, groups of kids on the 87th Street contributed to something that has really become worldwide, just the genesis, the seeds of that. So are we mature enough to say it's okay if you want to be old school, if you want to be around, or I hate to even use that term, but to have music for people who are not 20 something, to try to cater, no pun intended, Hans, to people who are who are in our a part of our generation. I mean, should we be doing that?
Bill says the senior circuit. He says you cater to the senior circuit. Is that what y'all trying to do?
No, because guess,
Matt said that.
I'm about to give you a good example. I go out to parties. They play a whole lot of new music. It might be 10, 15 people out there dancing. They play the old music and the floor get crowded. So it's not about senior. It's about the type of music it is. I give you a good example. Chicago is where it came from. Now, I get it. If you go out of town, you get these people and everything, you know, you get all this crowd and they're trying to, you know, they don't know because all this is new to them.
Right.
So they loving it. And I get that. From a business standpoint, I get that. Go out there and do your thing. But when you come to Chicago, to me, I think you should serve it from what Chicago want. Mm-hmm. Because to me, from what I see and people I know, because I still know a lot of people, mm-hmm. and it's just seniors, you got some younger people. The reason why they don't come out is because they get tired of listening to all that new music. Don't get me wrong. It's mm-hmm. fine to play it, but to play it all night and every DJ is playing the same thing and all that stuff sound the same, right. It becomes tiring because even I've tried to go out and it's almost like it becomes a headache because everything sounds alike. Yeah, there's no rhythm to it to me. Like that old music, you got real live instruments, you got things, you got different things. And here's another thing.
Different tempos. You go up, go down.
I guarantee you, you see it's a plethora of DJs now. Back in the day, it wasn't that many DJs. But guess why it's a plethora of DJs? They can't play the old stuff.
We have definitely had that conversation too. We've definitely talked about that.
Because they don't have the ear for it.
Well, but not only the ear for it, it is difficult to play music with instruments unless you practice that before you go ahead. It's not easy to spin that music.
Exactly. So that's why
got to be time stretched. It's got to be, it's got to be within the sort of the time frame or the beats per minute around 122 to 127 to match everything else in your crate. So that is a challenge. I'm wondering, I want to ask this question. This is kind of a DJ question, so if you DJs and producers are listening, you can chime in here. But, I'm wondering, could you rock a party? So when we think about the power plant warehouse, the place, we talk about Music Box, we were there all night, right? So we were there from the time they opened.
From 12 until about 10.
6, 7,
mm-hmm.
8, 9.
Yeah. I was there till 10, 11, sweeping up all the mess that everybody made that night.
Now, the reason we were able to do that, though, was because, as Hans is saying, there was not the same music all night. So, maybe if Ron was breaking a new song, you might hear it a few times if you hung out all night, because that's how he did it. But you would hear D-Train. You were talking about this earlier. D-Train, you're the one for me, Junior. Take your time, young man. And you hear something like Martin Circus, or you hear something like Evelyn Champagne King. You hear all this variety.
All the genres, correct.
That was both on the radio, not on the radio, different ways to play it, underground, European, for all this different stuff that will keep you going all night.
Yes.
Should we do that today?
I don't, with the music that's being made right now, I don't know. Because you have to really think about it was during that era. Everything is about that era. The Black Power movement. There was a lot of things going on, and it was displayed through the music. So the thing is that you had the love songs and the power movements and Zulu man about Africa and the Zulu nation, overtake defending Africa. And there's just so much good music and different varieties of it. You could play for 12 hours and maybe never hear a song twice. But there was so much of it that Frankie, God rest his soul, was able to, and Ron Hardy was able to play from 12 to the wee hours in the morning and be able to still entertain everyone. I had like I said, I had a bird's eye seat at the power plant to watch. Excuse me, people respond to Frankie, and it was incredible.
Now, here's why I'm asking this is because you could. Okay, I hear people are chiming in. Mimi is saying, some people play music, still play all types of music. I hear you, Mimi.
Lauren, hold on 1 second. Let me say this because I forgot and I want to say it. Right now, Hans will attest to this. Everybody will attest to this. Is that there's a lot of new music being played, and all they've done is took the old song and remixed it. So I mean, and then we talked about this, Lauren.
Yeah.
A lot of music should just be left alone. It is perfect the way it is. So just leave it. If you're gonna play it, just play it. You don't have to remix it or make it longer. It's made perfectly. So just play it. But
Kevin,
what they'll tend to do is they'll say that here's some new music, but it's nothing but an old song just remixed. Go ahead, Hans.
But Kevin, the reason why they do that is because that's the only way they can mix it.
Yeah.
They change the speed and everything on it so they can adapt to it.
Yeah.
So that's why you see a lot of edit and remix and all that stuff, because they modified it so they can play it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will say this as a DJ who likes some of that stuff.
I mean,
Lori, you're right.
Lori, don't get me wrong. I said it's okay. It's okay. But all night, like I promise you, through the COVID thing, when people doing all these things, the only person I listened to the Ron Hardy tribute, that was off the chain. I listened to Emmanuel, he brings it. The rest of the people, when I turn in and I hear I just keep going. I don't even listen to it.
Good. But I just want to say that me and Hans, are not saying, because there are some talented DJs out here. There are guys that it's their craft. They know the songs, they know the old stuff and the new stuff. They know what they have. They know how to play it. So there are some. But as Hans said, there is tons of DJs now, and some of them, some of them.
Well, let's ask the DJs who are watching. So, there are 2 points I want to make. Is this? So Mimi and others, DJ Emmanuel, saying, they'll play this music. It's great that you will play it. I'm wondering, do people have an appetite to stay at a party for 10 hours? We would be at a party for 6 to 10 hours. Now that might have something to do with the fact that we were all much younger.
Here's another thing.
Part of the magic is that you have this experience all night, right?
With the right music, I'll dance
all night. I can go all night. As a matter of fact, not only I can go all night, I can dance all night with the right music, nonstop.
Okay. I could too. I do it at home.
Nonstop.
So then the second question is, go ahead, Lauren.
I just want to make sure we highlight Timmy McAllister's comment where he says, "Didn't every DJ play the same thing back in the day?"
No.
So he's questioning whether or not we're nostalgic about this.
No, they did not.
Yeah,
no, they did not.
I'm sorry. What was it again?
He said, "Did every DJ play the same music back in the?" No, they did not. No, they did not. No, you had DJs had their own style. They might have played some of the same music.
Go ahead, Hans.
You have some of the DJs might have played some of the same music, but all of them didn't play the same music, and they all didn't DJ alike. Farley didn't DJ like Ron. Frankie did. I mean, you had different DJs had different style. Andre DJ, you had different style, but it was still because there was so much music from back in the day that they didn't have to play the same.
Right.
They didn't have to. Some of the same records, but for the most part, no, they didn't have the same style.
That's true. Now, what I will say is that there are certain segments of songs that were really, really, really hot that you might hear a couple of DJs play. But Hans is correct. Yeah, there was so much music out there that you can go through a night and not hear two or three DJs can play, and you won't have to hear the same record twice.
Yeah, we had some people who disagree. So DJ Lady D, my girl, is saying yes, they did. He
Who was
Smooth
that?
said
Who was that? Who?
DJ Darlene Jackson saying yes, they did.
Well, when
And
did
Who is that?
everything is when she came
as
home.
did E
She
Smooth.
Who
would
is
have
that?
So
she
that
would have,
so
was
DJ
she
Lady D
partying
is
back at was she partying back in
Who is
'81
she?
and '82?
she's a DJ. She's fantastic. She's part of the group. I'm sorry,
Super
Paper
J.
Jane. Sorry, Lady D. I'm just blame it on being 45. So
Youngin.
anyway, just reversing numbers. I think that you're making a good point, Hans and Kevin, about where you entered. So if you were, let's just say it's 1982. We love that year for some reason. That's when the magic happened. It's like our 1776,
Right.
1982.
Yeah.
So, but if you were there, part of the revolution of house music in that era,
Good way of putting it. Mm-hmm.
and you went to the music box one night, warehouse one night,
Power
you
plant
went
one
to
night.
power plant,
Sawyer's one night. The
and
penthouse
all
one
that was
night.
happening at the same time, right? 1982, I think they were all open. So you would hear different music in these different places.
Well, you wouldn't hear, like, if you went to the power plant, of course you wouldn't hear the same music. Ronnie Hardy wouldn't play the same music. They
Power
were
plant and
totally,
warehouse weren't open at the same time.
there was a different, where everybody says that was privy that Frankie grooved you and Ronnie, beat you down. So there were two differences. Again, like we were saying, there were some songs that were really, really, really popular that you would probably hear through different DJs, but the majority of the music that was out there back then in the different genres, you didn't have to. So just like what Hans said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Matt McGill's weighing in. Hey, Matt, Farley popularized scratch mixing. He wasn't doing that at our party. So Tony could mix and blend, and he had two songs going at the same time. Everybody was doing that, Matt. Andre, of course, learned from Tony. Yep, we got you. Thanks for tuning in. Frankie, another Frankie tribute, was one of the few that went in search of new music and often caught hell for it. I disagree, Kendall. There are a lot of DJs. Everyone searched for new music. You could go to record stores across the city, and you would see people searching for stuff that nobody else was playing. We were among those. But Frankie did bring it for sure.
Well, Frankie was such a popular DJ that people, the record promoters and stuff would give him all this music to play because they wanted him to play it. So he really, I don't think Frankie spent too much money on music because of the music that he was receiving from different, the different labels and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to change this, but Dominic, I think you were chiming in earlier on something that I saw about let the shorties live. This is a conversation that I think is important. We are the Vintage House Show, so we do talk about like old school stuff, but there is some discussion about like moving out of the way and like making room for people who are younger. And I think that is an important discussion. But it is one where there's lots of debate. Like, what does that even mean?
Okay, so let me say this. Let me jump in here real quick. So the advantage that we have, all four of us, is the fact that we were there and we are here. So we've experienced the past and we experience what's going on now. The advantage, the disadvantage that they don't have is that they weren't back then. They are experiencing what's happening now. So that gives us we can ring the bell a little louder than individuals that came on the scene probably in the late '80s and so forth and so on.
Right. And I know that Reggie and I were talking about this too. Like, what does it mean to create your own lane? Like, could somebody now, create a party, just pave the way, for a party that starts at midnight? I don't even know if the licenses allow it because there was certainly a huge crackdown on that in the 90s. Could somebody do a warehouse now? Is that possible?
That'd be hard.
Or a power plant?
Hans, what do you think, man? You think Hans? What do you think? You think somebody could do that? Have a party 12 to.
No, they don't even have the energy. They don't even have the energy now.
That we had.
No, they don't even have the energy. We were energized. I'll put it this way. With the right party, I can still do it because I don't drink or anything. So I can still dance all night and do whatever. But the thing is, a lot of these people don't have the energy. And here's another thing you have to realize. Hello?
Yeah, we're
here. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's another thing people have to realize. We danced smooth back then. So although we partied, we were so smooth where you didn't spend as much energy as what I see now. People jumping up and down, spinning, and like I'm sitting there like, wow, where this come from? Back then we danced to pull women.
What happened to the sexiness with the female?
We danced to pull women back then. We were sensual about our dancing. We weren't trying to battle the female. We were trying to get to that female. A lot of this music don't even let you do that. Everybody want to spin. There's some people, don't get me wrong, that's their style, but that ain't mine. So the way I dance, although I can dance all night, I don't spend as much energy. And plus it's effortless for me on top of that. Because it's in my blood. It's effortless. So me dancing is like me walking.
Well, you are a dancer, and every time I ask anybody about you, they're like, that Hans can dance. So that dancing is what got you noticed. I think it's what got you your following, and certainly has built a reputation for you to this day. So you know what? It's hard to believe, folks. It's already like an hour has almost passed, believe it or not. We have about 5 minutes left, though. So what I want to do is ask you this. Hans and Kevin, you could have your wish for the house music community now. What would that wish be? Whatever that wish is. Let's talk about it.
You want to go first, Hans?
Yeah. My wish, first and foremost, my wish, first wish is that it's not so many people stepping on each other's toes. Because back in the day, we all got along. Man. We all tried to help each other. If somebody, you have to remember, Lord, if somebody was throwing a party one night, we tried to find out was somebody having that party. We would have a party the next night. We didn't battle each other on trying to have the same party the same nights.
Right.
And people weren't bashing each other. There was some secret haters, but for the most part, the people that hung, like we hung around each other, we loved each other.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah. So now it's like, I don't know what this scene is, because it's like people against each other. Mm-hmm. And my next wish is, don't get me wrong, I don't mind the new music. But to me, to move a party, bring it both. Bring it home. Bring what brought it home, and then play some of the new stuff too. But to try to play that stuff all night, and then people talk, well, I'm tired of that old music. Think about it. I'm going to give you a good example. Frankie Knuckle, the House of Blues. When people stopped going to the House of Blues was when Frankie changed his music. The House of Blues used to be packed. People look forward to going to the House of Blues every Thanksgiving.
Right.
Once he started playing a lot of the new stuff, he lost his crowd.
Okay.
Although he had his crowd overseas and whatever, but that House of Blues, they didn't pack like it used to be. I think in his last two, it wasn't that many people there, and then he moved into the Crowbar. And then that wasn't even his crowd.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So people have to realize, you can go out of town and pack the place and people love it. But when you come home to this Mecca, just bring us home. Do what we need. I don't think your grandmother would want to go somewhere where you playing all new stuff for her. I look at it the same way. That's what we grew up on. That's what we reminisce on. Plus, we have jobs, we have kids and this and that. We're not trying to hang out 5 nights out the week like we used to. So when we do come out, we
True.
come out to hear what we grew up on, reminisce, have a ball, and go back home.
Okay, so you think it's, we got to keep these crowds distinct. That that if we're trying to appeal to folks who love house music, like play the stuff that they grew up, play the stuff that made house music house.
Pretty much.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Kevin? What do you wish?
Okay, so the old music is just undeniable. I don't care. It is
No
just
substitute.
totally undeniable. You can't. You can play it now and still get a positive response. And there's these young kids. There was so much music back then that they only scratched the surface on the amount of the amount of songs that were that they're hearing now. Like when me and Hans gave the party, I put on the flyer. What my intentions was to bring the old folks out that don't come out no more. And to let, I want to take you, I wish I had this was my way of like having a time machine and taking people back to a place where I wish that everybody could go. Mm-hmm. I wish everybody, that's why people are reaching and saying that they were back there because they wish they were. So I don't have a time machine. So what I wanted to give this party, to take people, give them what we had back then. And I told Emmanuel specifically to go, you have to dig deeper into these crates. And he did a wonderful job. Now let me jump on. I was fortunate enough when Frankie moved back to Chicago, because when he moved to New York, I started with the Chicago Fire Department, and we went on and did our own things, and when he moved back, I was very eager to see him because I hadn't seen him in so long. So I really, truly think that it was God that kind of made it possible because we went to lunch. Mm-hmm. His schedule was crazy, and I kept, I'd call him and say, "Hey, look, man, we gonna get together or what?" And he was like, "Kevin, it's crazy." At any rate, we got together, went to lunch, and I was able to sit down with Frankie. Now, if you understand Frankie, if you're at a club, you have to share him with everybody. So there is no having a one-on-one conversation with Frankie because he was the kind of guy that took time to speak to you. He was just a good man. Mm-hmm. At any rate, so I had this opportunity, God rest his soul before he died, to tell him what he meant to me during that era and this new thing that I was immersed in. And we were talking, I told him, I said, I do not like the new music. I can't. Mm-hmm. And I said, I've tried. I've had Reggie Corner and a bunch of Rhonda Flowers, and everybody say, you got to come out. And I come out and I sit at the bar and I just sit there and nothing moves me. And it's not that I'm not trying, because if something comes on that I like, then I'm going to dance. Okay. But Oz will attest to that. But what Frankie said, listen, Kevin, he said that was the new music back then. And I had to give, I told him how I felt, and he said, and I had to move forward. And right. I says, okay, I understand, but I'm letting you know. But you have to understand about, it's not just the music that was played back then. I was talking to somebody else. The music transcends some people back to a time where it was great.
Different time.
What I'm saying is that it literally transcends your being into back then, when you were young and vivacious and it was good and the music was ridiculous and it was this new thing. So it's the music and what the music is saying, and that whole thing about transforming and stuff like that. I love the old music.
I think listen, Kevin, I think it's fine for you to do that, and we have a lot of mixed opinions. Folks are chiming in. I see all your comments.
It's okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Darlene, it is. I think it is okay because I think that we have a diverse enough. What's the beauty of house music is that it has evolved, and it's gone into a lot of different directions. And if you are a deep house, old school, person who loves the disco and the stuff that made you feel good, then we should have a space for that.
Sure.
And
Let me say this, Lord, hold that thought, because Kevin Abdullah will forget. I'm sorry, but it is their time. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I just listen. Me and Hans have partied for years.
I'll tell you,
they won't even come close to how much partying we've been through, mm-hmm. and where we've navigated through parties and what we've done for the parties. But mm-hmm. but the thing is that it is their time, and it's fine. And if you love that music, that's great, because we love the music from back then, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. It's just that I can say that I'm not coming because it's not the same. But if you love it, that's great. So I don't have no malice and nothing. If you love it, that's a beautiful thing. Well, party and have a good time, because 20 years from now, you'll be sitting in this spot and you'll be talking about your time.
I think the reason we're having this debate, for those of you who are watching, the reason we started this conversation about people who were not either born or old enough or whatever to experience a lot of the places where we think house music was born, but they lay claim to that. So this is how we started this debate, right? Kevin and Hans were saying, stop doing that, but we also understand why people would want to do it. So that creates a little tension in the community, because it's
Lori, educate people.
Well,
so it wasn't a genre back then. It was what is
movement. It was a movement.
It was church music. It was
you have songs from the 60s and early 70s that they were playing at those music that was before their time, like Mistake. That's Eugene Records and the Shy-Lights.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So my thing is that, it was a plethora of music. Mm-hmm. Like I called Emmanuel the other day and I told him to play Spanish Harlem. That's Aretha Franklin. That's a cut. Yeah. That's a cut. It's so much music that moves you. It's so much music that could be put under that umbrella. Yeah. And so my thing is that once again, I said, it's some new music I like, but I prefer my old, because once again,
he's done. We're gonna get there. Don't hang up yet. Go ahead.
It puts me in that zone, and that new music, I don't get in that zone. As a matter of fact, you might think I can't dance if you see me dance off the new music, because I don't jump up and dance.
Let me do this before people start thinking one way. We're having this debate for a reason, guys. Matt, don't be done with us yet, because we started this discussion about folks wanting to be a part of an era that they weren't. And that's okay. We understand it was special, whatever. So let me move forward. I play new music. I'm a DJ. I work with lots of folks. I love the new music. I love the old music. I like to mix it up. What I was saying is, I think at whatever lane you choose to be in, whether that is old school, disco, house, whatever, whether it's 90s, you stuck in the 90s, or whether you feel like you got to play new stuff every week and on all those sites downloading what's happening this week. Mm-hmm. Lots of new music out there. It's all good, is my point. Where we need to go with this discussion is, how do we create these various points of access so that people can have what they want? Why can't we have that in the community? South Side is where we started that. People have shade about clubs on the South Side. I don't think we should. Stony Island, don't get stuck on Stony Island. Stony Island still has a lot to offer, and we can move the island forward.
Can I say this, Laura?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Think about it. It wasn't nobody having parties on the South Side for years until we started doing the parties on 76 and Stony Island. Mm-hmm. And then I even threw a couple of parties on 79th and Exchange in a parking lot that was packed. That's when people start throwing parties again back on the South Side because my friend Chris Calloway, his father knew the guy at the Dayton game, and he started doing his little parties at the Dayton game, after work parties, house music and all that. Then, you know, it gravitated from there. People started doing things, then rentals, you know, things like that. That's how all that stuff started again.
Right. Right on. Right on.
You know what, Lori?
Yes,
Let me say this. There is a DJ that I listen to. My brother called me to listen to Vic Lavender, and I like the way Vic plays. I like the music that Vic plays. It's very melodic, and it reminds me of the old stuff. So they're you know, I'm there, but it's, you know, I don't know. It could.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Good. Yeah, I mean, there's but that's one out of 24. So I mean,
listen, a lot of people can jam the old stuff and new stuff. Darlene saying some of it started where, you know, in the 80s and moved to the 90s. Let me see what you're saying, sis. Super clubs, raves, ushered in another style house music. Some people didn't get that second part and continue to pine for the best days of their life. No shade, just facts. And you know what? I agree with you, Lady D. There is no shade. You like what you like, and if it moves you and the people around you, just make space for that to happen. And it feels like there's a pining, there's still a yearning for something that was in existence in the 80s and 90s, what have you. We got to make space for it, you know, because ultimately why we're having this discussion is that we love it and we miss it. It's not in our lives. You know, there's something that's those sort of represents. It's not just nostalgia. It's about this love that we experience maybe once a year at the chosen few or when we go out, what have you. So what does that look like? What is the next iteration of house music for all these generations?
But the thing is that we had our time. We've had our time. Now, would we like to revisit it every so often? Yeah. Absolutely. But
that's all I'm saying.
You know, but the thing is that I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the new kids and what they like to listen to, because I have my time. I've done just about, Hans too has done, the only thing we haven't done is play records. And you know what? I did that too. Because one day Wayne Williams took me to an all-girls club. He said this on your show and left me and said, look, play some music. Play some music. I'll be right back. So I've been behind the turntables too. So I've been in every facet of the music scene. Everything from passing out flyers to hanging up posters to dancing to working. I think, and what that does is really basically you become the mortar and the bricks.
That's right.
When you like with me and Hans, there's certain people that were just part of that. You can't mention that without mentioning some people. So
right. All right. Well, listen, there's a lot of debate. We could obviously go on. I do have a lot to say about this, but I have guests. So
yeah, what is the debate? What is the debate about?
I think the debate is that a lot of DJs and a lot of party people feel like the house music community needs to not be stuck on classics.
You don't have to. You know what? You don't have to. That's why.
Once again, like Kevin said, that's their preference. Because now, guess what I do? If a certain DJ is not DJing, I won't even consider going to one of those parties. I went back home to my roots. I go to the reggae spots.
There you go.
I go to the reggae spots and because it's more. It reminds me more of like back in the day. Because when you dance at the reggae spot, it's more sensual. You know, and it's more. You know, you get the groove, you get the smooth.
It was and very sensual. That's right.
That's me. So that if the certain person not DJing, you won't see me at one of those parties. I go to the reggae spot and get it in all night, like back in the day.
I feel you. Matt saying let's include, not exclude. So I'm all about that. There's a lot of different ways that we can express our love for house music. You can do it, you know, depending on the DJ you like, depending on the promoter you like. Just do what you love. This is a good time to experiment. We are all the world is flat. and you can listen to lots of different DJs. Girl, Lady D, DJ Lady D's got a great set. She's a, newer, as in not as old as us, but she's been in the game for 30 years almost. Many other great DJs. Mimi Hughes has been chiming in. Miko Jones, I saw you tearing it up the other night. So many great DJs out there. So listen,
that's my man, Miko. That's my brother.
I saw Vince chime on.
Yes, Vince. And as he said, there's a lot of DJs still play classics. You can find a classic music party.
Listen, so here's a conversation that me and you were having. I don't want to debate anybody or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think the whole platform here is to kind of educate people to a time that maybe a lot of them unfortunately weren't able to experience. So this is just a tell-all.
Wouldn't it be great if we had like a virtual warehouse experience where people could like literally like feel that experience? Like, well, Hans, not you. I know you weren't in a warehouse. Okay, maybe a music box. Okay, look.
Me and Hans had a
warehouse experience, a virtual music box and warehouse experience.
We and Hans had the same experience, and the only reason I went, as you know, in your last show, the only reason I went back is my brother coached me to come back, and then so.
I have a challenge. I have a challenge for whoever's watching. Whoever's watching, I have a challenge. We're going to reproduce. We want to reproduce the era that we're talking about through 3 parties. These are the 3 parties. Here, we're going to reproduce the warehouse. We're going to reproduce the music box, and we're going to reproduce the power plant.
Wow.
And maybe we should do 4, and we can reproduce Sours or the Loft.
Oh, yeah. We have to start off with Sours, though.
Now, you're going to have
the other ones.
You want to have the music. We can still have the same DJs because most of them are still around. And we're going to recreate that era in 4 parties. That's going to be our challenge. So when COVID is done, whoever wants to join me in this, okay, Al, which music box? That's a good question. I say the music box on Michigan.
16th in Indiana.
So many questions.
Let's go to the one on Indiana and not our one.
Well, no, we can't do that.
Why not?
Because back then, Ronnie Hardy, they were only there for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Right. We'll figure that out.
I truly believe that I don't believe I was there. So Ronnie Hardy was mimicking Frankie.
Yes.
Because when I went there,
I was
just like, oh, this is just a remake.
Okay, we're gonna reproduce these 4 parties.
I think that him and Robert had a conversation, and when they moved to Lower Michigan, Robert probably told him, "Listen, you need to create your own sound."
Yes.
And I truly believe that that's what happened. When he got down there, he
okay, so you think we should do, because it's a different music.
Oh, Michigan.
Okay, so
Kevin.
Yes, Hans.
I can't agree, because Ron, when he was on 16th in Indiana, that was the first time I ever heard the baby cry, the train, and Ron was bringing some stuff that it wasn't being done at the power plant, dog.
No, well,
he's a Frankie disciple, but you have to realize Ron was doing well.
I'm not saying that he went down the line with everything Frankie did, but there were a lot of similarities. And what I was
of course. Yeah. But that's why I would say go with 16, for the simple fact that was the first time I heard, him. My name is Bessie Smith. He was bringing that stuff in the background. And come on, man, that was my first time hearing that stuff. So I would go to 16.
Yeah. Let me tell you this one in particular time that I was working at the power plant, and it was a poetic moment. And Frankie was at the turntables, and you had Craig Loftus, Ron Hardy, Who else was up there? Robert Williams. I watched them be mentored by. I would watch them actually just study Frankie, and they would all be moving simultaneously. I thought that was the most wonderful thing. It was crazy.
He was the Godfather. They were
being mentored by him, and that's why when he moved, Ronnie moved to 16th. There were little hints of Frankie in the way that he played.
They did borrow some stuff from each other. A lot of DJs did. We're laying the gauntlet down, everybody. We're gonna do this, okay? Lauren, I'm putting it on you, executive producer, because we're gonna do 4 events. We might start virtually since we're in the virtual space. But we doing the warehouse, we doing the music box. Somebody said do both 16th and
the comments are all over.
We'll figure it out. We're going to do the power plant and we're going to do Sours.
Lauren, let me ask you a question. You ready?
Yes.
How much of the old music do you think is being played that the new kids are introduced to? And what percentage do you think that they've heard? If it's a 100% scale, what do you think of the percentage of music that they've heard?
Before you answer that, let's talk about Vita Girl. Is Vita Girl coming on the show, Lori?
Yeah, Vita Girl, she is coming on the show.
And that's a unique, very young person of European descent who plays some interesting things every time I hear her play. So I'd be interested in her comment about other young DJs and what they know about the past.
Yep, Kevin and I talked about her earlier. So we're going to do that show. But listen, Trenton, you down for helping? I got a lot of volunteers, so we're going to make this happen.
Answer my question, Lori.
Kevin, you will be our host.
What do you think? Because there's a backside to it. Real quick.
5%.
Huh?
5%.
5%?
10%. No more than that. Yeah.
What I'm saying is that then there's 90% of the music that they have no idea. Matter of fact, let's move the scale over. Let's say 20% that they've heard. There is 80 to 70% of music that was being played back then that they don't even know about.
Right. Yeah. Well, then our parties will give them an opportunity to experience it. So listen, I would love to continue this conversation all night. I know that many of you guys would love to do that too, but we are 20 minutes past the hour. And he predicted this exactly. So Leonard Roy will volunteer on vinyl. I love it. Yeah. That will be the challenge. So if you're going to DJ these parties that we're going to put together, it has to be on vinyl. We throwing the gauntlet down.
Wipe out a whole lot of people right there.
Yeah.
Right?
We're going to settle some scores with this party.
Jeffrey Sims, Emmanuel, there's some guys back there.
Okay, so listen.
That are going to come forward, and that's going to break it.
Reg McClain.
No, Lori's laid it out. Let's go. We just gotta get out of COVID so we can get it done.
Even DJ Cheese surprised me. He can bring it.
Brian said that was going to cut out a lot of folks. Okay, y'all. All right, Global Diva, thank you. Listen, I want to say thank you to Hans, Chery. You are a wonderful guest, and I also I appreciate you brought. You. Whenever I saw you in a party, I would be happy because I felt the same way Craig did. This is a good party because Hans is here.
That's
and
right.
Kevin, you're my brother. I appreciate everything you've done, Lauren, keeping us all moving. So we're going to be back next week, and I tell you what, we're going to have details next week on how we're going to roll this whole thing out. So if you think you can rock a party, because we're going to do it all night like we used to, you think you can rock it with vinyl.
Mm-hmm. Can I leave by saying something positive?
I'm gonna give you something to say, but if you can rock the party in vinyl,
6 to 8 hours.
And we're gonna do this, Lauren. Okay. Warehouse, power plant, music box, couch, or party. We may start virtual. We may
That
do
should
it in
be
person.
interesting, to say the least.
We'll see how it goes. We're gonna plan this. So if you want to be on board, reach out to me. All right, Kevin. Last word.
We don't want to debate. You know, we want to keep the love for this genre, whatever you want to call it. I think that this is a great venue and a great program. And I just hope that people that are tuning in that maybe not even know us or heard of us or what have you, take this opportunity to kind of see through our lens of our eyes of what was in the past, and to say that we're not trying to say that we're better or anything like that, but we're just trying to give you a look to see. And we were very, very, very fortunate to be with these pioneers that got this thing going, as far as Frankie and Ronnie and the guys from the Chosen Few, which is Wayne and Jesse. But I don't want anybody leaving with a negative feeling. So
not at all.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you. Hey, David. All right. So Hans, anything else you want to leave people with as we say goodbye?
Once again, like Kevin said, it's just what we're discussing is our preference. So everybody have their own preference, and we were just bringing out our preference and what we enjoy and what we like and what moves us. So the thing is, once again, like Kevin said, don't get us wrong. You know, if you like what you like, that's fine. That is fine. And there's no bash, no debate. It's just that we're discussing what moved us, what made us enjoy ourselves back in the day, and what move us now when we come out, because we don't come out as often. So that's what we come out to try to listen to, the stuff that moves us. So if people choose the other lane, that's fine also. But just don't expect me to come. That's all.
Well, there you have it. If you want Hans, you got to play the right music.
I would really like for them to experience that 70 or 50% of the music that they never heard.
They're going to experience it. We're going to make that happen.
I know that the kids would love it. I know that they would.
The time capsule is going to be real, Kevin. Yes. We're going to make it happen. All right. I love you guys. Great show.
All right. Love you too,
Laura.
Laura.
See you next week. Thank you guys for tuning in to Vintage House. Yes. We will see you guys. This is the end of our broadcast. Peace, love. Everybody have a great week.
Great show.
And Soul Train.
Bye, Lord.
Bye-bye.